Today on It Chooses You, ultra running with Jeffry Buechler.
You're out there moving along. It's just primal and connected to the world, and you feel super small and capable, and night's falling and all these amazing things. And whoa, and that was just one of the most magical runs I've had.
1, 2, 3, 4. If you can do all your stuff, what can figure it out? That's how it chooses you.
Our guest today is our dear friend, Jeffry Buechler, who is a maker of much, from haiku to houses, and who has a complicated and loving relationship to running.
Well, Jeffry, part of what we really want to do with the podcast is reach out to thoughtful, wonderful people like you and hear about their experience of things that they're passionate about, but specifically things that we cannot imagine ourselves being passionate about.
Nice.
And I would definitely put running in that category for me. We want to create bridges. Yeah, just understand the drive and the love and what your experience of this activity is.
All right. I hope I'm passionate enough about running. I don't know.
You definitely are.
Not like qualify. I don't know. I mean, just doing something doesn't mean you're passionate about it, right?
You've ran 50 miles at a time more than once. If you call it passion or not, we want to know about what that is.
Sheer stubbornness. Yeah.
Would you say that is a characteristic of a runner, would be stubbornness?
Ooh, I don't know. I would say more runners are like more passionate. The joy, then I was like, oh yeah, there's the joy that speaks to me. I don't know why the word passion doesn't say that, but I guess I was just being shy about the word passionate, and I suppose sometimes I have been very passionate about running. I think it calls to me because I find some joy in that experience. I mean, mostly in the actual running. Yeah, there are some ancillary parts of running that are joyful. There are other people, there's the camaraderie or even the shared experience or something. I'm also a weird runner. Like, I don't have to maybe train as hard as some people to achieve similar results. So I'm lazy, and I've had very few running injuries.
When you say that you think you achieve more easily than other people might, do you think that's a question of genetics and your natural physique, or what do you attribute that to?
I would say it's mostly the genes thing. Good running buddy, and aside from that, just a good friend. But he's been on some of the crazier running experiences with me. He is a very smart scientist.
Yep.
I did go.
I'll take it.
He teaches college, so he can still talk properly. And anyway, he said, we're in the top 1% of the people who can run in the world, and we're not professionals. And I was like, oh yeah, really? He was like, yeah, think about it. But the thing is, there are so many people who would be better than he and I who don't even have the chance to run. Like, they don't get enough calories in their day. Or their back is crippled from crushing bricks or whatever it is. Like, whatever. They don't have the time, energy. They don't have that opportunity. Health, nutrition. Yeah, I've been super fortunate to have good genes from a pretty active family. But maybe I have a freak gene that also upped that. I don't know. I have been tested once, and my numbers were high for VO2 max. I don't know. I feel like I've never really pushed that to find out exactly.
Can I force you into a brag real quick?
Okay.
What is the longest distance you have ever run in one shot?
I think it was 50 miles. As far as I know. Yes, I would say 50 miles. That was a race. I did pace someone who was running a 100-miler, and I paced her for roughly the last 50, and it might have been a little more, but we were stopping, eating, an actual me running straight 50. Yeah.
Wow. It's just so far out of the realm of possibility for me. I just find it so admirable. It's incredible.
I mean, gosh, people do so many cool things with their time and energy. And Teresa, you've read so many books. Claire, you have also read so many more books than I will ever read.
I appreciate your attempt to throw the conversation back onto Claire and I, and normally we would totally be into that, but right now this conversation's about you, and I can tell by the way you're talking about it that you don't think it's admirable that you run 50 miles at a time. So if I'm right about that, my question is, what do you get out of it? Tell me about the joy.
Okay, no, so I just think it's like equally admirable to things other people take on. For me, yeah, let me go to the passionate side of what running is for me. And that is, like, as a kid, I was hyper, sugar freak, and...
I've seen you run to work with a punctured lung, so the hyper thing, you say it was when you were a kid. I just want to, for our listeners, it's not over. It's not over.
Oh, God. I think that was just a broken rib, but thanks for enlarging my legend. As a kid, when I just was playing and romping around, I just, it would get to that, watch out walls. And hopefully I was outside and, running around in dirt or whatever. And, I just would go until I couldn't and collapse and then go. And, all I wanted to do in my teens was skateboard. But that was a similar thing. I kept throwing myself at it. So that's just, a way that I operated in my early life. And it really, formed my physical dance with the world. And I like to be slow, and maybe I like that contrast. But yeah, the moving quickly, it just tickles me. And there's that whole thing where kids are go faster, mommy, push me faster on the swing. And that's what I'm doing. My first memories were in Botswana, and the elementary school, the public school, the thing to do, the thing that everyone did, there were two things. They were shooting marbles, and I loved that, and I did a lot of that. And when that wasn't happening, take your sandals off on the side of the soccer field, which is not green, it's dust, because shoes are for school, and your bare feet are for running it. And you would play this game called British Bulldogs, so it's like sharks and minnows. The faster you ran, the more less chance you had of being caught, and you were lucky few or whatever. That was a valued thing. You just try and run fast. That's what we played. And playing is passionate, and you learn about yourself in the world. And I think that was really formative for me. And as a runner, it felt good. History-wise, I had no interest in running as a sport. It was a vehicle for fun as a kid. My dad was into running with a capital R, and he organized neighborhood fun runs, and he would try to get me into it. And he would have to bribe me, basically, to participate. And when I'd do it, I'd be like, oh, this is fun. Oh. But that wasn't my thing. I did because he wanted me to do it, and he'd give me an orange juice after or something. Whatever. It was just fun in the moment.
But I like how your first experience was that you would run for sugar.
Yeah, sugared up. High school, people start forming their sporty life, maybe. And I did not want to take sports. I wanted to take mountaineering and art. But we had to take some sports in my small high school to try to develop so that there would be varsity teams. I ended up taking track my junior year, and I was awful. All I wanted to do was pole vault because that was fun. But they made me run the 2-miler, and they barely let me ever touch pole. And I was a terrible runner at that time in life. But I was a good skateboarder. I could skateboard all day long, right? But I ended up winning 1 point at the state meet for pole vaulting 10 feet because there was no one else. Anyway, I had no big career as a runner in high school. And then college came along, and I was skateboarding or snowboarding or kicking the soccer ball. No, nothing. And I fell back into running in part because of my dad. He had died 2 months after my brother and I both saw him at the age of 60 do the Ironman in Hawaii.
Wow.
And he was no elite age group athlete or anything like that. He just did it because he was into that. That was a great last memory of being with our father in Hawaii and seeing him do this thing at the age of 60. Even at that time, I had the insight to be wow, he's pretty fit for 60.
Yeah.
That's pretty fit.
He could kick my butt at 60. So he was doing something really cool that he was passionate about. So he died suddenly out when he was out for a run. So there's all this weird family stuff there that I have processed and I'm somewhat aware of. But yeah, 2 months later, he died while he was out for a jog run, and he was hit by someone driving a car, and that was it. So my life got kind of crazy then, and within 2 weeks, I had spiral fractured my ankle just walking on black ice. And my leg was laid up for a couple months, processing death. And then I tried to do some things like skateboarding too soon and tore up the inside of my knees bad. And that was a rough year physically. And I finally just kind of chilled out and was like, all right, I should retreat to the pool, which I don't know how to swim and breathe, but I'll figure it out. And I did. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. This is lovely. And a year after my dad died, I had this strange dream about him that he was cheering me on as I was like coming out of the water at Hawaii in the Ironman, but onto lava rocks like they don't do in real life. And so, it was a dream. And that was about all to the dream. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get into triathlons and chase that in his honor or something. And so and part of that was running, and I started running literally 200 blocks up the street the first time because I knew I couldn't. And I was just couldn't go farther than that without, in really bad shape. And so, very slowly, I started running around a bit and chased that dream of getting into the Ironman for a while. And part of that was running, and it made me it didn't make me. I'm trying to remember if I ran my first standalone marathon before or after the first time I did the Ironman, which is pretty foolish either way you cut it. Anyway, I was one to not do so much training and then just show up and have fun and it would happen. And later I kind of understood not everyone can do that. They could really have a problem. And I'm just lucky because it's fun and I'm physical. In that time, that training, running's easier, less equipment, no pool pass, and I just go out and run. And I was good at it. Yeah, I just would do it and enjoy it. And I was like, well, I'll sign up for more races. And then the triathlon thing was kind of fading, but I tried that 50-mile race because my dad had done it. And it seemed like the next logical step. 2 months before it was happening, I was like, oh, I should probably read about how people train for this on that thing called the internet, which was 2003. I was still kind of young. And I was like, oh, people run a lot more in the training to do that kind of thing. I'm in trouble.
Was this the JFK?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The nation's oldest 50-miler and the longest continuing. It's a legend in its own time. And I had cheered my dad on at that race with my mom way back when I was a kid and didn't understand anything what that meant. So I did this race, and then that was kind of fun because it was really long and twice as long as I'd ever run before. And so I was like, oh, I should try that again sometime. And I went back. I can't remember. I think I've done it four times, maybe 5. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I don't remember my best times very well. I don't remember how many times I've run those kind of things, but I had some prowess with that. And 1 year I really tried, maybe a little harder, and I was also freshly in love with my current wife, and so things were really dancing well for me, and I had a really good result there. I think maybe I was one of the top 20th times of all at that point. And I was 3rd overall in that race, and it was so exciting for my brother who was supporting me that day. I requested a different shirt or something from him, which didn't matter, whatever. But he didn't, or a drink, I don't know. But he ended up injuring himself trying to run and get it to me because he was so passionate about me maybe winning the race. It's a big deal in that very small world. I like short races. I've done 100-yard races. I've done mile races all the way up to the 50s. And those are fun. And it's neat to see all these different folks who are attracted to that. And it has its own little culture. And then a lot of my most passionate running experiences have been just out on a run, training, whatever you want to call it, just out enjoying a run, not necessarily like having any purpose. But those, I should be talking about those more because those are cool. So, one amazing thing that I can only take partial credit for is my friend Eric, this geologist, who is also like very lucky in having a really fit body. He was like, hey, we should go run the Grand Canyon from rim to rim to rim. I was like, cool. Tell me more about that. What does that mean? Which
I'm
rim?
in.
So,
what is that?
Yeah, like, yeah, okay, sounds fun. How many miles is that? Like, how many elevation feet do you gain and all that? And I was in good shape and he was in good shape and he was like, we can do this. And so, like that, and that was kind of like an organized, semi-organized adventure that he and I did. And this was like December 10th of 2005, and we just went and did it together. We barely even told anyone. I think I'm sure his wife knew. And his mom knew because she was meeting us in Las Vegas on the night after. So we better get it done because like he had to go to meet his mom. Yeah, it was this crazy thing. And we kind of, we researched it. He knew what was going on. So I knew I was in good hands and I just like went along for the ride. But we had maybe one of the most coolest experiences. Yeah, it's a highlight for my life for sure. And that was, you can get all the stats about like how far that is. I think I want to say it's like a 44 mile route or something. We went down one side of the South Rim and then up to the North Rim. And then when we came back, we took a different trail up to the South Rim. After we passed the Phantom Ranch, was just near the river, and we were going north, we passed one person. This is the kind of experience you never get in the Grand Canyon. We passed one person before we hit the rim, and we were post-holing through 2 feet of snow for a lot of that North Rim, and they were like pheasant, like flying around, and other critters like hopping around, and absolutely no one was there. It was incredible. Don't tell anyone. You shouldn't go there and do that then. You'd really get in bad trouble. And we were making up haikus. It's a memory you share with your friend. Oh my gosh. And then like driving to Vegas after that. Whoa. And then eating pizza and then trying to still drive to Vegas. That was so hard. That was like the hardest time of the whole day. Because, we did this run and survived without injury and in a place that, can literally kill people in the summer. That kind of magical experience, running brought me there. And we knew we could probably do it if something major didn't go wrong or minor. I've been lucky to run on some trails and just have like magical experiences that are very like mundane trail runs. Nothing like elk charged me or anything. Some of those things have happened and those are interesting, but like just you're out there moving along. It's just, just kind of primal and connected to the world, and you feel super small. And I love that feeling of feeling super small and also animal in the best ways, maybe, and capable. Yeah, one time, Mount Humphrey is the tallest point in Arizona, and was just went up for a hike with my best friend since kindergarten, Jason, also a geologist. So any runners out there start hanging out with geologists and you'll have a good time. Anyway, we had this lovely little day hike up to Mount Humphreys, and we encountered this group close to the top, and they were Native American, and they didn't look like they could make it physically. They probably were going to, but it was going to be tough. It looked a little dicey, but the leader was probably putting them through a physical challenge that was important to them, is my guess. And we talked to them for a bit, but we were a little worried because there was a very big storm coming in, like thunderheads a mile high. Like, whoa, we better get down. We better kind of hustle. And they were still going up. And so we had gone down a little ways from the peak. Jason and I talked about it, and we were like, this is rough. Like, we have some extra food. We're going to be okay. And maybe, like, I don't know if we give them a flashlight or something. I don't know. But it was very white of us to, like, say, they need these things.
Right.
Obviously. Like,
Yeah.
Well, it was just like this, training of, like, well, you need to have your Boy Scout stuff with you. You Native Americans. But Yeah, you never know about that kind of thing. So I guess I erred on the side of cautious over-culturing, and we decided I would run them up some stuff, some supplies, and fine, did that. And then I had to boogie down because the storm was really coming in, and I had a magical, almost mystical experience for a white guy on this mountain. It was like really kind of treacherous footing, and I just kept going faster and faster, and just my feet were just floating over these rocks, and like I just was like, well, that could be really dangerous, but it's happening, and it was exhilarating, and I can't believe how fast I ran down that mountain. This experience of like, oh, they're going to the top of the mountain for wisdom, and do I do that? And maybe I was trying to put myself in that place, and the more like mystical, but I don't know. But it was thrilling, and maybe just adrenaline does that. And suddenly I was like connected to the storm that was starting to touch me, and these rocks and the trail, and my friendship with Jason, and like kind of trying to get back to him and not like make him feel endangered, and nights falling, and all these amazing things. And whoa, and that was just one of the most magical runs I've had. And I can like replay, in my memory that run or parts of it, and whew, it was really cool. I've had encounters with creatures, and those are just part of that, like getting out there experience. There's a fun camaraderie part of running, and for a long time I did it solo because I'm just a weird loner solo person sometimes. And then I found a running group in Boulder, and that was amazing because it was a very different way to run and be friends with people who you might never have known otherwise. It was so cool. And of course, like, sometimes I find myself like trying to break up the runner talk with like real talk.
Yeah.
Because we're not just runners, we're humans. But yeah, but that's what, they're out there because they're like, this is my run. This is my thing, my escape from work or whatever. This is what feeds me in a certain way. And so they're out for the running part. And that's not everyone in the group, but they were a high performance group, or had been in their time. So it was nice to be like off the hook for pressure. But also like some of those cats had run sub 4-minute miles, which was amazing.
Jeez.
I don't think that's ever going to happen for me. My dream is probably I've let that one go, maybe. So I feel like I've had some interesting experience with running, but I also missed out on the whole team running experience that like a lot of those folks did that ran in high school and college, and like got to do it for the team. And like, a relay team, that would be fun. And I've done some small dabbles of get together team. There's so many experiences to the running thing. And so many people, like that's another thing I learned from triathlon. Is like, oh, wait a second. It's not just all these elite people you see on the magazines. Lots of people in lots of different bodies, lots of different ages, and lots of different life experiences show up and do these things. And for some people, it is relatively easy, and we can kind of have fun with it. And some people, they're achieving this huge dream in their life. They might not ever do another Ironman. Like the one might be it. And whoa, that is powerful to witness. Like they have set themselves at this thing, and they have embraced it in some way, and they're doing it. And humans do that in all these ways. And this is just that physical thing is just one. All those books, whatever they are, that I have read. The famous one that kind of got in the ultra scene and the barefoot running thing.
Born to Run.
Yeah, thanks, Born to Run. There are other great ones too that explore this human, primal connection to running. And you do kind of think about that out there, like, ooh, could I hunt a critter? Could I get with my buddies?
Weren't we?
Yeah.
We were coursing predators, right? We chased things down just like wolves.
Yeah. And like, I got to throw that out there again because I've read that it's very probable that the first sub 4-minute mile was not Roger Bannister. Ignoring all the primal record breakings that happened from just outrunning some critter.
Right.
In
Fear-based. The fear-based sub 4 minute mile.
Yeah. There were these professional runners who would make money running from one church in a town in England to another church. And they've been like, oh, that's exactly a mile. And chances are pretty good that they were beaten in the 4 minutes. People have been doing this for a long time and having fun with it, or having status with it, or like surviving because of it. So it has that, just like the sewing skills. Like, we connect to our ancestry in these ways, or just like our thinking skills, like philosophizing. That's something humans have been doing forever and evolving, and like we're still evolving the running thing.
Back to the people you were talking about, that it's maybe a challenge for them, they've set themselves. The thing I find so inspiring about that is, although I acknowledge there's probably a world of prestige, but for someone like that, there's no reason to do it other than for yourself, right? Which is so cool.
Yeah, and that self thing can be all these other reasons that people. I won't think those reasons are invalid. But like, my brother lost his legs, and he always wanted to be a runner. I'm doing this for him. There are all these kind of reasons that people will throw out there beyond like just for myself. And sometimes it's just for myself. I wanted to do this. The Hoyts, the father, I think the son has, I don't want to say muscular dystrophy, but he's towed his son in the swim, towed him behind on the bike, and then pushed him in a jogging stroller thing on the run. For many, many Ironmans, I can't even tell you the number. Incredible. And so they also have to train together. So his son, who could not do that without this other human body, has experienced this incredible race that only very few people, very small percentage again in the world, ever experienced. And this son with muscular dystrophy has experienced that as a team with his father over and over. And he's like, they are a competitor, and they probably kicked my butt time-wise several times. And I was just some dude who didn't train enough and was just out there having fun, doing whatever. What you're saying, Claire, like, people set this thing to do this. They challenge themselves and they do it. And there's this incredible purity to the running that's like, most people can do it, or actually a lot of people can struggle at doing it, and that's part of it. Like, just because I can't run like the pros, like I can still run a marathon. And it's amazing. I think a transformative experience for people to see what they can do. Yeah, not for everyone. Like there are other challenges. I mean, there are pain. Like, sometimes it hurts, right? And I have a very fortunate body that doesn't hurt very much. And I've been very like chill about training so that I don't get super sore. Like, why I feel pain, right? So bump up very gradually. But other people, like, everything about it physically is tough. It just blows my mind that they can push themselves that hard. I've not come close to that. Even like at that, when I got the third place effort at that 15 miler, like, I did not push myself that hard. I like to stand at the finish line for a long time, and sometimes till the end. And some of the pros will do that. I've seen that happen as well. Or they'll go and take a little recovery and then come back, and they'll cheer on the last folks who come through the line, because they know it is amazing that any of us do that. And some of these people have to overcome a lot more to get there. A lot more. It's hard to even imagine. I'm getting all crying. I'm getting all teary right now. Like, it's cool to see that. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty nifty. It blows me away.
If I had gotten myself together to run a marathon for the first time, I would be very pleased if someone who found it easier was waiting for me and cheering for me as I crossed. Because I would be one of those people where it's like, okay, it's hour 11.
Yeah, I also feel fortunate that in one of my Ironmans, it was probably my third one, I'm in Malaysia, I was really ill there. And I totally stopped training. It was only like a month out or whatever. And I stopped training so I could get well. And it was a whopper. And then, like, the week before, I was kind of, like, jogging a little bit. Well, no, I already put all the hay in the barn really anyway. Like, you can't do that much more in the last month. Then it was very clear in the first 20 miles of the bike race that I was not well. You know, it was tropical equator heat, and like the second bike lap, I stopped and sat for a while, and everything was spinning, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really bad. Maybe I should stop." And you know, I had a very challenging race that day, and I can't remember exactly what my time was, but I want to say it was 15 hours and maybe 12 minutes, something like that. It was just over 15 hours, and that's like, you know, the cutoff is like a 17-hour. And they'll still people, you'll see them after that still heading towards the finish line. But I got to have a taste of what other people experienced to try and slog it out. And I like walked with someone until I didn't walk anymore with them because I hadn't trained to walk that much. And it hurt to walk that much. So it was so weird. I was like, this is weird. But walking hurts. So I'm going to run 100 yards and wait for you. Yeah, that's how we got through. And this guy, you know, he was not having as good, he was lucky of experience, but we were keeping each other positive, and wow, I got to experience a little more of some of the challenge that folks face. And luckily I never had such a bad race again. But yeah, I feel like it gives you a real appreciation of folks who aren't as fortunate in the gene pool, if you want to call it that, for running or whatever. And that's a long day. Like those people who do the thing for 17 hours, it is just harder on your body than the pros who finish under 9 or 8 hours. That is twice and more time.
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, so if you're in shape and you can rip off these miles, you're not going to be as sore. You're like, and whatever, your joints aren't going to hurt. But if you're pounding the pavement for 8 hours on a marathon, that's gonna hurt bad. I really have appreciated when the pros will show back up at those wee hours and bring in the last folks. There's an appreciation, I think, for those folks who struggle and see that the elite are not always elite in that way, and who do understand that it's a challenge for everyone in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And what a cool moment to like. You just have to be with your body, right? In that moment, you're like, this is what my body is doing right now. It's not well. Okay.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Like, even I, who really like to be in my body and kind of feel the world from that perspective, there have been times where I've headed down the ways of not being in my body in those moments because it's uncomfortable. Whether that's being in a different place mentally, like thinking about the past or the future or some other place. Yeah, or, fighting the demons of you should stop now, or there's so many ways, like, chemically people can distance themselves from their body, or I'm trying to think if there's some other, some people like music. I just don't listen to music because I want to be out there in the world, but some people they've got their tunes, and I can understand that. Like, music is important to me in other ways, and people have all their different ways. People sing, oh my gosh. Like the woman that I paced twice at the end, the last half of her 100-mile runs. And I think both of those were her first 200 milers. And I had the honor of pacing her. And she's a doctor, a medical doctor, and like a super type A driven person. But whoa, I mean, you're up all night, all day and all night, and like, maybe I was driving her crazy. Maybe that's what she needed. But I was, telling her all these stories, and it's an experience out there. And people have so many different experiences of each same race because of what's happening with their body in different times. And they get to like share camaraderie about whatever challenge came up. And that one turn, it was so hard to see which way to go. Or I thought we were going to have water there. Or whoa, that hill was really steeper than it said in the guidebook. Yeah. So it's neat to see how humans do their human thing around those events too. there's all these myths about running or involved running. And I mean, the marathon itself, Euripides is supposed to have died giving word about the battle. And that's how the marathon was created. So, yeah, there's that like hero motif for you. And then there are wonderful events where people do it because it is so freaking fun to have all these people dressed up in costumes, like the Boulder and slip and slides on the course, and someone in front of their house might slip you a Corona. In Portland, I think there was a St. Patty's race that I was in, and they were offering shots, and like there are people who flash their bare chests, and all kinds of weird hoopla because we're humans, and that comes with any organized large event. And it's, oh my gosh, I mean, like I saw one of the most creative things I saw costume-wise, forget Halloween, was the Boulder, and there was a human-sized banana running about 10 yards ahead of a full-size gorilla suit.
That's awesome.
That was brilliant. I mean, come on. That is so primal. Like monkey chase banana. Yeah, just wonderful. There was one up in New England somewhere. I can't remember what it's called. It sounded really appealing to me because part of it is mountain biking, but when you have to carry like your mountain bike chain with you the whole run, and then when you get mountain bike time, you have to like assemble part of your bike. And then there's another part where there's a Lego construction at the top of this hill, and you can take it apart, but you have to like run down. You have to run down the hill with it all apart, and then recreate it at the bottom of the hill. And if you don't get it right, you have to run back up the hill, and like until you get it right. I think at the beginning you have to like crawl up this gully under barbed wire, and then you have to hack your own tree stump out of the ground because that's your race bib number. But it sounded fun because it was a very light, like fun spirit, and these weird fun challenges. I don't know, but I didn't. Yeah, I never got myself organized to jump in that. Different folks have different fun. Yeah, I think sometimes folks can take it too far. And I've seen runners who, it seems pretty clear right away that like the running is scratching some, like filling some void or scratching some wound or itch that is on the compulsive, not maybe as healthy side. Yeah, so I think, all things in moderation, including moderation. And sometimes that's like, yeah, I'm properly prepared to, or reasonably prepared to run 100 miles. Yeah, for me, it's just, I like the sensation. I like the gliding. Sometimes it's plodding, but usually it feels kind of glidey and free. And I've seen like so much beauty doing that, and such fun camaraderie, and like maybe getting lost sometimes. And that kind of engagement that just feels real human and not just human, but part of the greater world in this particular way. Oh goodness,
Jeffrey, that's so lovely.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thanks for letting me blab on and on about it.
Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
It's been so good to talk to you.
Yes.
I miss your face.
Thanks for listening to It Chooses You. Your hosts are Teresa Sparks and Claire Patton. Today we'd like to say a special thank you to our guest, Jeffrey Buchler. Our theme song is by Bobby Dart. If you'd like to get in contact with us, email us at itchoosesyouPodcast@gmail.com.